Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going deep on the Return of the King.
The final film in the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Right. And we've got a great review to help us break down all the details.
All the plot points, the themes.
Oh, and of course the characters.
Definitely. Lot to cover with this one.
So should we just jump right in?
Sounds good to me.
All right. Now, the movie opens with Gollum, right?
Yes, we get that flashback.
When he finds the ring.
Exactly. It's such a smart way to start the film.
I always thought it was a bit creepy, to be honest.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you see this, seemingly harmless little creature.
Yeah.
Totally corrupted by this tiny little ring.
And it's not even flashy or anything.
Right. It's almost unassuming. But that's what makes it so powerful.
And scary. It shows just how dangerous the ring really is.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That anyone can be corrupted by it. It doesn't matter who you are.
It sets the stakes really high right from the start.
Definitely. And it really foreshadows what Frodo's going through the whole movie.
That internal struggle.
Exactly.
So after that opening, we catch up with Gandalf and Pippin.
Heading to Minas Tirith.
Which is such an amazing city. Visually, I mean.
Mm.
So grand. Almost mythical.
Yeah, it's definitely more than just pretty visuals, though.
How so?
Well, Minas Tirith represents the last real hope against Sauron, right? It's the last bastion of freedom and good.
Against that encroaching darkness.
Exactly. So the siege isn't just a battle.
Yeah.
It's a fight for the survival of everything good in Middle-earth.
And then we get to see the Siege of Minas Tirith. Man, those battle sequences are insane.
Some of the best ever put on film.
Jackson's direction is just top-notch. The way he captures the scale of everything.
Oh, totally. And the way he portrays the Witch King leading Sauron's army.
So terrifying.
Yeah.
Especially when you contrast that with the defenders, who are so desperate.
Right. It's like David and Goliath, but on an epic scale.
Exactly. But even in all that chaos, you still see these amazing acts of courage.
Like Gandalf, right. Rallying the defenders when all hope seems lost.
Oh, and the Rohirrim. Arriving just in the nick of time. It's a total roller coaster of emotions.
You think they're going to lose, then suddenly there's a glimmer of hope?
I still get chills when I watch the Rohirrim charge. That moment when they crest the hill, the sunlight on their spears.
So good.
Such a powerful moment of hope, you know?
Yeah.
Against all odds.
It really embodies that never give up spirit.
Though victory does come at a cost.
We're thinking of Theoden.
Yeah. It's a reminder that even in victory, there's always sacrifice.
Exactly. It's a bittersweet moment. And let's not forget Éowyn.
Oh, yeah. Confronting the Witch King. What a badass.
Such a powerful statement, right?
Yeah.
Defying expectations and all that.
I love that she refused to just stay behind and let the men fight.
Yeah, she totally subverts those traditional gender roles, shows that anyone can be a hero.
And she takes down the Witch King. Proves strength and courage have nothing to do with gender.
For sure. Now, meanwhile, Aragorn's off on his own crazy adventure.
The Paths of the Dead. What an intense sequence. So atmospheric.
Really pivotal for Aragorn's character.
In what way?
Well, he's confronting these ghosts, yeah, but it's deeper than that.
Oh.
He's facing his lineage, the mistakes of his ancestors, the burden of his kingdom's past. It's heavy stuff.
Whoa. So it's like he has to literally face his past.
To claim his destiny.
And then there's the army of the dead.
Yeah.
Talk about a game changer.
Oh, yeah. Jackson does a fantastic job bringing that supernatural element to life.
So what did you think about how he used those supernatural elements in general?
I think it's brilliant. He doesn't use them just for spectacle, you know?
Mm.
It always serves the story. Like the army of the dead, they can only be commanded by the true king.
Right.
It visually shows that Aragorn's the rightful heir. It's not just random magic.
So it's like those supernatural elements are totally tied to the characters and their fates.
Exactly. They enhance the themes and the character development. Speaking of which, let's shift gears to Frodo and Sam.
Oh, yeah. Got to talk about them. Their journey to Mordor is just as important as all this other stuff, right?
Absolutely crucial. It's the heart of the story. Frodo's struggle with the ring, that's what we're all invested in. Yeah, it's a battle against temptation and despair the whole way there. You really feel for Frodo.
You can practically feel the weight of that thing, crushing him with every step.
Totally. And then there's Sam. Man, what a friend, huh?
He's the best.
Yeah.
The epitome of loyalty, for sure. Never gives up on Frodo, even when it seems like all hope is lost.
He represents that unwavering faith and goodness that can, help you overcome any obstacle.
And Gollum, right? Stuck between helping them and wanting the ring for himself.
Gollum. Such a tragic figure. He really embodies the addictive nature of the ring, I think. Like, it hooks you and twists you up inside.
He was a hobbit once, too, right?
Exactly. So you see what the ring can do to anyone, no matter how good they are. It's a warning.
It makes you wonder, if someone like Frodo can barely resist it, could anyone?
That's the question the film poses, right? Makes you look inside yourself.
So they make it to Mount Doom, the ring gets destroyed, Sauron's defeated, everyone breathes a sigh of relief.
But there's a cost.
Yeah, it's bittersweet. Frodo's all messed up, physically and mentally. It makes you think, what happens to the heroes after they save the day?
It's a question a lot of stories ignore, you know. Frodo did the impossible, but it broke him.
And the other hobbits, when they go back home to the Shire...
They expect everything to be the same.
Right, but it's not. It's changed while they were gone.
Yeah.
It shows that war, even if it's far away, it still touches everyone.
No one escapes unscathed, right? The film really digs into those complexities, which is what makes it so good. It's not just a simple good guys versus bad guys story.
It shows how conflict, any conflict really, has these ripple effects that reach far beyond the immediate battle.
Exactly. Okay, but can we talk about the acting for a minute? The performances in this movie are incredible.
Seriously, every actor just nails it. Like Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn.
He totally embodies that kingly presence. But you also see that internal struggle, you know?
Yeah. Like, accepting his destiny isn't easy. You see it in his face.
Mortensen's so good at conveying all those layers, the strength, the vulnerability, the compassion.
And Elijah Wood as Frodo. Man, talk about carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders.
Wood's performance is heartbreaking, really. You see him getting worn down by the ring little by little.
It's a slow descent into darkness. But it's so powerful to watch. And of course, we can't forget Sean Astin as Sam.
He's the heart of the Fellowship, that's for sure. Loyal, hopeful, even funny sometimes.
He provides that grounding presence, that lightheartedness when things are getting really intense.
And how about Ian McKellen as Gandalf?
Perfection. He just IS Gandalf.
Yeah.
So wise and powerful, but in a gentle way.
He manages to portray that authority and wisdom without being, over the top. It feels real, genuine.
And speaking of genuine, Andy Serkis as Gollum. That motion capture performance was groundbreaking.
It really was. He gave Gollum a soul, You could feel his conflict, his inner struggle.
It's amazing how much emotion he was able to convey, especially with that technology being so new at the time. It's hard to imagine Gollum without Serkis. Okay, so we've talked about the characters, but what about the bigger themes? This movie is so much more than just action and special effects.
Absolutely. It's full of these deep, universal themes. We have that classic battle between good and evil.
Sauron being the big bad and the Fellowship representing hope and all that.
Right. But it's not black and white, It's more nuanced than that.
Yeah, you see that in the characters. They have to make choices, face their own inner demons. It makes the whole thing feel more relatable, even though it's a fantasy story.
Like, good and evil aren't these abstract forces, right? They're inside all of us.
And then there's the theme of power, how it can corrupt even the best intentions.
Frodo's the perfect example of that.
Right. He starts out with such a pure heart, but the ring slowly starts to twist him.
The ring is a metaphor for any kind of power, really. It shows how seductive it can be, and ultimately destructive.
It's a warning, for sure, about what can happen when people get too greedy for power. And then there's the theme of sacrifice.
It's everywhere in the film.
From the small personal sacrifices to the huge, life-altering ones.
The film really asks you to think about what you would be willing to give up for something greater than yourself.
And the idea of redemption. Like, can someone who's made terrible mistakes ever come back from that? You see it with Gollum, even though he ultimately falls back into the ring's grasp.
It's a tragic arc, but there's that glimmer of hope, It suggests that maybe even in the darkest of hearts, there's still a chance for change.
And we can't forget the importance of fellowship, of friendship and loyalty. The whole Fellowship wouldn't have made it without that bond.
Totally. They support each other, push each other to keep going. It's a reminder that we're stronger together, that we need each other to get through the tough times.
So we've got these deep themes, but also this incredible action and spectacle. Peter Jackson really outdid himself.
He's a master of blending those big, epic moments with those small, intimate character moments. It makes for a really immersive experience.
And visually, it's stunning. The battles, the creatures, the landscapes, it was groundbreaking back then.
And it still holds up today. He used a combination of practical effects and CGI, and they work perfectly together.
Remember those Oliphants? I was in awe of how real they looked on the big screen.
They used motion capture to record real elephants, then recreated them digitally with amazing detail. It was revolutionary.
And Gollum, too. He was so lifelike.
That's thanks to Andy Serkis's incredible performance and the motion capture technology. It felt like he was right there with the other actors.
It's a great example of how technology can actually enhance storytelling.
Exactly. It's not just about showing off, it's about using it to create a more powerful and immersive experience. Speaking of which, we have to talk about the cinematography.
Oh, yeah. Andrew Lesnie's work on this film is amazing. Those sweeping shots of the landscapes are breathtaking.
He really captured the epic scale and beauty of Middle-earth, but he also knew when to go in close and focus on those intimate character moments.
I love those shots of the Rohirrim riding across the plains. You feel like you're right there with them.
He used a mix of techniques, too. Crane shots, handheld camera work, you name it. And his use of natural light is incredible. It creates a different mood for each location.
And the color palette is so rich and vibrant. From the green of the Shire to the bleak grays of Mordor, each place has its own visual identity.
The colors are very deliberate, reflecting the mood and tone of each location. It's subtle but powerful.
And then there's the music.
Yeah.
Howard Shore's score is epic, emotional, everything this movie needs.
It's practically another character in the film. It adds so much depth and emotion to every scene.
Did he use different themes for different characters?
Yes. He created leitmotifs for each of the major characters, places, and ideas. It helps to create the sense of continuity and emotional connection throughout the trilogy.
So like when Gandalf appears, we hear his theme.
Exactly. And there's a theme for the Shire, for the Ring, for the Fellowship. It's a brilliant way to tie everything together musically.
I love those soundtracks you can listen to even when you're not watching the movie.
Right. It brings back all the emotions and images. It's a testament to Shore's talent.
So, The Return of the King was a massive hit. It won all 11 Oscars it was nominated for. It made history.
Tied the record for most Oscars for a single film. It's incredible.
What do you think has made this movie so enduring? It's been over 20 years, and it's still considered one of the best fantasy films ever made.
Well, for starters, it's based on Tolkien's amazing books, right? They've captured people's imaginations for generations.
And the movies really brought those stories to life.
They did it in a way that was both visually stunning and emotionally powerful. And the themes are universal. Good versus evil, friendship, sacrifice, the corrupting nature of power. These are things that resonate with everyone.
They're timeless. And the film handles them with such depth and nuance. It's not just a simple good guys versus bad guys story, you know.
It explores the complexity of human nature, the cost of war, and the enduring hope that good can prevail, even in the darkest of times.
And let's not forget the sheer scale and ambition of the whole production. It was unlike anything we'd seen before.
The battles, the creatures, the landscapes, it pushed the boundaries of what was possible with film technology.
It wasn't just about spectacle, though. It was about the characters, their journeys, their struggles, and their triumphs. We connected with them, even though they were hobbits and elves and dwarves living in a fantasy world.
And that's the power of good storytelling. It transcends time and place. It connects with us on an emotional level.
And that's why this movie stays with you. You know, we've talked about the big picture stuff, the themes, the impact. But what about those smaller details that you love? The things you notice upon repeated viewings?
One thing I always pick up on is how Jackson uses foreshadowing. There are all these little hints and clues scattered throughout the film.
Foreshadowing. It's like a secret code for the viewers to decipher. Can you give us an example?
Okay, early on, when Pippin looks into the Palantir, he sees Sauron's eye for a split second.
Oh, right. I remember that.
It foreshadows the mental and emotional battle that Frodo will face with the ring as he gets closer to Mordor. It's brilliant.
Wow. I never noticed that connection. It's amazing how much thought went into every little detail.
And there are visual cues as well, like how the light literally changes as the story progresses.
Oh, right. At the beginning, there's a sense of hope, with lots of light. But as the ring's power grows, things get darker, more oppressive.
Exactly. It's a subtle but effective way to show the encroaching darkness, visually representing what's happening in the story.
It's like the world itself is suffocating under the ring's power.
It's those little touches that make this movie so rich and rewarding to watch again and again.
And the music. Jackson uses music to foreshadow events, too. There's this specific theme that plays whenever something big is about to happen.
Right. Like a warning signal, but also a way to build tension and anticipation.
One of the things I love most about this movie is that you discover something new every time you watch it.
Absolutely. It's like peeling back layers of an onion. There's always more to uncover.
Okay, I have to ask. What's your absolute favorite scene in the movie?
Ooh, that's a tough one. There are so many to choose from.
I know, it's hard.
But if I had to pick, I think it would be the scene where Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli arrive at the Battle of the Pelennor Fields with the army of the dead.
Oh my God, that scene is incredible. The music swells, the camera pans across this massive army of ghost warriors.
And you just know that the tide of the battle is about to turn.
It's such a triumphant moment, goosebumps every time.
And it's so symbolic, too. Aragorn finally fulfilling his destiny, embracing his role as king, and the army of the dead finally finding peace.
It's a scene that perfectly captures everything this movie is about. The epic scale, the emotional depth, the action, the hope, the sacrifice.
It's pure magic.
And it really sums up why The Return of the King is such a special film. It's a story about hope, courage, and unity. A reminder that even in the darkest of times, good can triumph over evil.
And on that note, maybe we can talk about the movie's lasting legacy, both in terms of cinema and popular culture.
Yeah, this movie wasn't just a box office success, it was a phenomenon. People were obsessed with it,
It was huge.
and it sparked this whole renewed interest in Tolkien's books.
It captured something in the zeitgeist, and I think the timing was a big part of that.
What do you mean?
Well, the world was going through a lot back then, just like in the movie. There was a lot of fear and uncertainty.
And this movie offered a sense of escapism, but also hope.
Exactly. It reminded people that even when things are bad, there's always a chance for good to prevail, that we have the power to make a difference.
So we talked about how the movie influenced fantasy as a genre, but what about its impact on filmmaking itself?
It raised the bar for what was possible, especially with visual effects and large-scale filmmaking.
You can see its influence in so many movies that came after it.
Other filmmakers learned from Jackson's techniques how he blended practical effects with CGI.
He really pushed the boundaries. But it wasn't just about the technical side of things.
He also showed that fantasy films could be character-driven, emotional, and intelligent.
They could be for adults, too.
Exactly. He proved that fantasy could be a genre that explored big ideas and appealed to a wide audience.
You know, after talking about all this, it's clear that The Return of the King isn't just a great fantasy film, it's a great film, period.
It transcends genre. It's a story about the human experience, about our hopes and fears.
It's a story that makes you feel something, makes you think.
And it leaves a lasting impact even after you've seen it 100 times.
Well said. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, what do we want our listeners to take away from it all?
If you haven't seen The Return of the King in a while, go watch it.
Or if you've never seen it, what are you waiting for?
There's always something new to discover in the world of Middle-earth.
And maybe, just maybe, you'll find that watching it changes you just a little bit too, just like those hobbits returning to the Shire.
That's a great way to put it. Thanks for joining us on this epic adventure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
Yeah, it's a trip going back to the Shire and finding it all messed up. Makes you think about the impact of events, even on those who aren't directly involved.
Absolutely. It's a powerful reminder that actions have consequences, even if we don't always see them immediately.
Speaking of impact, we talked about the influence The Return of the King had on fantasy as a genre, but what about filmmaking in general?
Oh, it definitely pushed the boundaries of what was possible.
Especially with those epic battle scenes and all the special effects.
Exactly. Jackson showed that you could create these massive, fantastical worlds that still felt believable and grounded.
And it wasn't just about spectacle. He also showed that you could tell these really complex emotional stories within that framework.
For sure. He raised the bar for what a fantasy film could be, both technically and narratively. You can definitely see its influence in so many movies that came after it, especially in the fantasy and sci-fi genres.
Absolutely. Other filmmakers learned from Jackson's techniques, from his use of motion capture to his ability to blend practical and digital effects seamlessly.
He really set a new standard for epic storytelling on film.
Yeah, he showed that fantasy films could be smart, character-driven, and emotionally resonant.
Not just mindless action and special effects.
Exactly. There's real depth to The Return of the King.
You know, after discussing all this, it's clear that this movie isn't just a great fantasy film. It's a great film, period.
I completely agree. It transcends genre.
It's a story that speaks to something universal about the human experience.
Our hopes and fears, our struggles and triumphs.
It's a film that stays with you.
And it leaves you feeling, I don't know, inspired, hopeful,
Maybe even a little bit changed.
like you've been on a journey yourself.
Well said. I think that's a perfect way to wrap up our deep dive into The Return of the King.
We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
We explored the plot, the characters, the themes, the technical aspects, the cultural impact.
We analyzed it from every angle.
But ultimately, it's a film that you need to experience for yourself.
So if you haven't seen it in a while, go watch it again.
Or if you've never seen it, now's the time.
Let yourself be swept away by the story.
Immerse yourself in Tolkien's world. You won't regret it.
And maybe, just maybe, it'll change you a little bit too.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.